just before we wrap this section up, I just wanted to have a look at this third and fourth synchro unit, because it was said that this car would go into third and fourth when it was stationary, but it wouldn't go into fourth when it was moving. How odd. So let's have a look at the bits and pieces, because you see, this is your first primary motion shaft, that goes onto your clutch, and this drives all the rest of the gearbox round. But you see, when you've got your car into fourth gear, this synchro locks onto here. Now this is really tricky for me to do, because the third, fourth synchro, it quite often falls to bits because there's no stop on it. So when you select gear, it'll click in like that, if you see what I mean. The only thing that stops it going forward is the detent and the arrangement of the forks, right? So that would be in third gear, and this would be in fourth gear, right? So what's the difference? Well, nothing really. But what do we have to look at? You see, if it won't engage into gear, it's usually these little brass synchro rings that are defective. What they do is they sort of wear and they stretch, and a lot of people think it's the drive teeth that are buggered up. Well, not necessarily, because they're made of brass, because brass is like a lubricant. So it helps guide this piece, the outer piece, to lock over the top of these teeth here. So people think when you're changing gears and things like this, we're actually changing the gears themselves. But actually all it is that selector jumping across and locking these teeth together. Now this is like a brake, you know, that's what it does. It's when the shaft's turning around very fast, this helps slow it down just so that you can synchronise those teeth together. That's why there's an awful lot of teeth. Because if it was like an old series with a dog clutch with about 6 teeth on, well, you've got a great load of space between them. But these are very fine, so it hasn't got far to move. If you see between the teeth here, these two teeth here, you've only got to move that like that, and it'll engage. See what I mean? Now the important thing is, what I said was these wear. And you see there's a gap between here, between the brass ring and the teeth. Minimum is 25 thou, I seem to remember off the top of my head. That is a lot bigger than 25 thou of an inch. So that means it's working quite well. If this was touching, if this brass ring touches here, it'll become ineffective and won't work, and that's why you get grinding in gears. Now, this is the catch. I've wrote to the guys who's got this box, and I've asked him, was it blocking to go into gear, or was it grinding? Because I can't see it grinding. It looks almost impossible to me. See what I mean? That's why I'm in a bit of a dilemma with this. But basically, that's how your synchros work. Like, I'll put my chest on here to stop that moving, but when you're in third, it'll slap into there. So that this shaft now is driving through your lay shaft. It's coming up and driving this gear, so that gear's locked. If it's like that, the gears are in neutral, same as this one, it's sort of in neutral. But it isn't, because this one's free spinning all the time, because obviously it's come from your engine, but it drives the lay shaft, and that moves the power up into different sections. And it's exactly the same with first and the second. And a lot of people get confused to think that the front is the first gear. Well, it's completely backwards. You know, the first gear is at the back here. So I just wanted to show you that, because this is really puzzling me as to why it won't go into gear. You know, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I mean, they're feeling perfect. I watch this. I'll snap these in. The bloody thing will all fall to bits. Look. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Let's move the camera around a little bit. Sorry about the vibrations. I'll have a zoom in. Maybe you can see this this in action. You see here. Now you see when I put it into third, you'll see this outer ring rides. This outer ring's got teeth on the inside, and you see all the bits that have to line up. See that ring on there? All those teeth have to be in line. So that's what your synchro ring does, or they call them a balk ring really, but anyway, that's what it does, and it lines them up like that. And then when you change gear, that locks in, and you're in top gear. Because even though this layer shaft is turning, let's put this back again. Even though this shaft is turning, when you go down, when it's in fourth gear, it's just driving these. There's no lock on them, if you see what I mean. So when you're in top gear, you lock that together, and it locks that main shaft all the way through. Kind of simple, really, but kind of daunting if you don't know. But that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, another thing that could be wrong. You see the springs inside here. There's one at this side and one at the other side. These could be weak. Okay, well, that could be weak, so we'll change them. They're only about £1 each. They're not much expensive. Also, you see in here, these are the little slippers. These are the springy bits that lock that unit. Now, I don't want to take that apart because we'll have bits everywhere all over the floor. They've already fallen apart twice. But we'd probably do a video when we're putting it back together. But they've got little raised portions on them, and there's a groove inside, and that's the bit that keeps that together. Look, you see how it'll only move a certain way? All right? That's what it does. The spring tension holds those slippers into the groove of here, so it can only move like that, look. The problem is sometimes these slippers here get worn, and apparently, according to Ashcroft's, the aftermarket ones, and even the genuine ones now from Land Rover, are too soft, and they wear out very quickly, meaning that this won't lock. Alright, so that's the thing to watch. So I don't know. Let's have a look at something else I'm curious about. So this is the next thing I'm kind of curious about. These are the selector forks, and I've checked here to see if the width of these forks are correct in the groove of the selector. There's no play. You see what I mean? There's no looseness. So that's good. So we can eliminate that. What else can we eliminate? Well, it's an extremely simple device, but complicated at the same time if you've ever taken an LT77 or an R380 to bits, because they're exactly the same. What we've got here, because this is an LT77, we've got this pin here drives the fifth selector at the back, if you see what I mean. No, ignore that. But this here, this hole here, this is where eventually your fork drives this rod backwards and forwards. And all this can do is push these forks backwards and forwards, or and that's it. So what keeps it in place? Well, you see there's a series of 3 grooves here. The middle ones are neutral. Now this is where I'm going to get confused, because I'm trying to work backwards. This would be your first and your third, and this will be your second and your fourth. You see, so what happens is inside your casting there's a ball and a spring with pressure, and that stops that moving about. Well, logically speaking, if it's jumping out of fourth, it should also jump out of 1, 3, 4. It should jump out a second as well, because it's the same ball. So it doesn't jump out a second. So I think we can eliminate that. Sorry about that. What time is it? Only 8 o'clock in the morning. Sunday morning, I should be in bed with Lionel Richie. Yeah, so that's it. That's how that works. Now, what stops this moving around? At the top of the gearbox, if you can remember, there was a little plate with 2 bolts in, and there's a little keeper on the top there, so that keeps that good. And if you turn this round, oops, it is very clever how they've worked it out to do a single shaft. Wait a minute. Okay, there. Now, there you can see there's a pin, and this pin does the driving of backwards and forwards. But this little device here is like an interlock, so you can't lock 2 gears in at the same time. Very, very clever. I really sort of appreciate that. Now, one thing I did notice on this shaft, there seems to be a bit of wear here. And that was one of the things I was concerned about. I'm just wondering if that has something to do with it. Whether that's locking it in. But to tell you the honest truth, it's not that bad. Because look, that's the bit that sits there, but it might just be that. But I'll tell you what's concerning me is that if it goes in, if it goes into third and fourth with the car stationary, why can't it go into fourth whilst it's moving? It should be actually simpler, because synchros are really good in first and second. Third and fourth, well, you can do without them. It doesn't really need them, because the speed of the shaft, the speed of the input shaft, or the primary motion shaft, is almost balanced by the speed of the car driving the gearbox the other way around. So as your axle's turning, it's actually turning the shaft the other way. So you'd actually find the two of them are actually almost in sync anyway. There's a very little difference in the ratio, so they'll slip into gear really good. Alright, so again, this is another thing that's foxing me. Why it should go into top gear really easy. Now, if any of you guys had buggered about with cars in the old days, like your Ford Escorts and your Minis and things like that, you could actually drive the car without using the clutch. You could just guess the engine RPM and just flick the damn things in and out. That's how the old drivers used to get quick changes. I don't know why I mentioned that. Anyway, so I don't know. I'm flummoxed. I'm going to wait for some answers from the owner and see if this was grinding into gear. I don't know. But when we took the gearbox apart, there was a little bit of metal particles on the magnet. Now that's quite normal. We see that quite a lot, and it's just from these teeth here just catching a little bit. But these look absolutely perfect. This just looks like it's come out of the box. I don't know. It's really, there's no physical damage in this to warrant saying, oh yes, it's that. And the problem is, I haven't got a vehicle to put. I'm not putting this in. I'm not putting this back in. I am sending it on a pallet back up to Winnipeg, 2,500 kilometres away. So it's got to be right. Do I put a new synchro hub on here just to cover my arse? If you see what I mean. I really don't know. I really don't know. So let me ponder on this a little bit more. We'll chat to the owner about this, and then we'll come back and we'll get all the parts. It might take a week or two to get the parts. So then we'll do another video of assembling this. Alright, we'll see you later this time.